Let's break down Mao P, Tesla. We're going to just look at the arrangement over time, kind of create some MIDI clips, create what I call a macro map, or sometimes I call it a hook and lift map, because what we're interested is the development of the track over time. Like what sounds come in, what hooks come in, when do they come in, what are the different hooks, because they're the things that ultimately the listener cares about. And then how does the track lift and fall and rise and fall over time? And we're just interested in the big things, the high level. And we're going to just take away some arrangement, little secrets and takeaways and insights that we can use in our own tracks from Mr. Mao P. So let's go ahead and get going and break this track down. Let's go. So right away, we got a really unique sound in the drums. Like you can hear a pretty prominent reverb, not like a big, huge, wet, kind of like hall reverb, but a pretty sizable room there. But I'm just going to do like standard. I'm just going to do a beat track, which is just going to be, the drums. And we'll start that out for 8 bars. So where are we at? Cool. So that is 16. Here we go. Cool. All right. Yeah, there's some interesting things on there. You can hear like almost like a slap-like texture on the drum, on the kick drum. You can hear like a little bit of a crowd texture in there. The hat's really dark right now. And another interesting thing is look at these transients. Yeah. Really cool. All right, tiny little vocal right there. So just a little bit of an intro thing, not overlaying hooks like crazy. So Vox intro, hey, what do you like? Hey, oh. Although that makes it seem it's like, hey, oh. But all right, so right around here. All right, cool. A little bit of a double kick here, just to kickstart the next 8 bars. So we'll go like that, and also just get started on kind of like the map, which will be like the high level arrangement map. So like intro, which will be right here. So we'll call this intro and color it brown. And then also do like an edit map. So edit maps are just going to be little things that happen at like the end of like a 16. Uh-oh, what's going on? Like the end of 8 bars or 16 bars. Usually an edit is like where you take out the low end in some way. So high pass a kick, remove a kick, high pass the bass, stuff like that. But even right here, like with the double kicks, like I'd consider that an edit. So, because that might be something that pops up again and again, which would be like a thematic edit, right? Something that's kind of a theme or a motif in the track. You hear a little bit of a riser there, and so we can start creating like the effects up, and then we'll also create the effects, didn't save, so effects up, effects down, and then effects accent. These are generally the 3 kind of effects categories that you can have. Like you can fit almost everything into these. So like an up effect would be like a riser, a down effect would be like a downshifter, and then an accent effect would be like a crash or just anything that accents the moment. And most effects are going to kind of fit in that category. The thing about effects is sometimes people are like against them. I love effects because like, it's cool to like, let's say you have a riser, but one way you can create a riser, let's say in a build section, is you open up the filter of a cutoff. You open up the filter of a bass, which I think Mao P is going to do in this track. And that's going to create a rising feeling. So that is using an element in the track to create a riser. But effects, what's cool about effects, like if you're going to use white noise or like a tonal riser, is they support that underlying rising. And so they always will help enhance the underlying movement or the energy levels of the track. So I really like effects. Even if we work them in subtly, they almost always help because effects explicitly communicate what you want the listener to be feeling. And in this case, he's creating anticipation to go into the bass drop. And that's exactly what a riser does. It creates anticipation, communicates explicitly to the listener that, hey, we're going somewhere. Get ready. This is going to be cool. Okay, we got that vocal again over here. Let's move this guy over. And then there's that little whistle. Yeah, that little whistle. I think is sweet. Cool. So we got our little whistle right there, which is really funny. What a funny little thing to put in a track. I like that. Awesome. And so this, you can see how that little double kick over here paid off, because now that this is now a double kick that pulls us into the kick, but this is really like a fill, right? So this is definitely turned into something. It's not just a double kick to restart, but look at this. This is now turned into like, is graduated to a much more important status, which is like a fill. So do kick, fill. And yep, so that was just teased even there in the intro. So there we go. Okay. All right. Oh my gosh, and I totally ignored the bass. So let's get the bass in here. This thing is high passed. Boom, boom, boom. So HP, and there's going to be HP for high pass. Same with the kick. This is all high passed right now. And then that's what's cool about the kick roll here is it comes in full. So all right. So this section right here is going to be your bass drop. So where you drop the bass. Cool. Cool. So this is no longer high passed here. We got the beat with the full kick. So let's see what's got added here in terms of the drums. So everything's far away. Now we're gonna get, you got a nice eighth note on the beats and the off beat. So tit, 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 almost like a live drummer just tapping away on eighth notes on a hi-hat. Very typical for this kind of like indie dance influence, electro influence right now. Also that snare in the background, just electro snare right now. Splash hats, like this is just all the meta right now in terms of drums. Cool little 808 cymbal on there though, that little sound right there. You can hear the distortion on the bass, and I kind of like that because that's really easy to do. If we just go get like a bass, so let's see, bass loop. Let's see if we can find one. Come on. It's indexing. Why not? We'll try it on there. So for example, I mean, you can just do this with Ableton Saturator, like something similar. So a little bit more of like an 808 bass, that one, but rather than what Malp's using, which is kind of your standard saw wave, little tiny bit of a pluck. But where is the saturator? So if we get this guy here. We got a little bit more of like a constant bass on there. So I'm just going to try to keep that bass level, because the problem is that with the saturator is going to hit a lot harder on the louder bass notes. So if I keep the bass level, I'll be able to get a much more consistent saturation sound. And then you can even duck a little bit of the top. Just working in some saturation in there, just a really dirty kind of sound. We can even dial that up. That's pretty cool. All right, and then getting back to it. Now, it sounds different because it's not the same bass, and like I'm not going back and forth like crazy on it right now, but you know, it's just a heavily saturated bass. That's it. With a very controlled amount of saturation. Cool, and then we're gonna get a little Let's get a little Cool, and then so. Cool, we'll do like a little accent here. I'm just gonna call it a crash. All right, it's basically a crash. Just not even that unique of a sound, right? Because it's just out of a drum machine, but you know, it's different than like a 909 crash. Something that's really interesting about the snare, if you listen to it, there's a wide texture to it, but there's a definite tail also clearly down the middle, which is really interesting. See if you can hear that. There's a wide element to the top end of the snare, but there's also a part of the snare that goes down the middle, and I'm talking about the tail on the snare. The wide part of it will, what's it called? Will decay faster than the one down the middle. And we can actually separate this out. So for example, if I go get like solo plugins here, but here we go. So if we solo the sides, mids, hear the difference there? Like, so but if I undo it, yeah, cool. All right, just want to point that out, but that's cool. That's interesting. And like, you know, you could do that by having two different snare sounds, for example, or you can have like a wide reverb on the snare. Like there's so many different ways to do that. I just wanted to point it out. Okay, cool. Little hat lift. All right. So we can start talking about arrangement, right? Because the whole point of the video is breaking down the arrangement and learning from it. This is so far just really standard. So we have a 16 bar intro. So we'll do 16, just where a DJ can mix in, not doing too many crazy things and not giving DJs a reason to not play a track. And then here, when you get to the bass drop, what you're doing is just intro the bass, right? Just intro the bass. That's right. You're just teaching people the bass. You're just teaching them how to move and groove. DJs are also mixing in here. But here, when you get to the second half of the bass drop, this will be like a B lift, right? And it's going to be what? What's it going to be, right? And a B lift can do two things. A B section lift is what it is, like a B section. So this is A section, just intro the freaking bass. You do a little bit of the thing like right there. And then like a little vocal. They have a double kick. Yep, there you go. And see, so we're getting that kind of thematic thing going on here. What about right here? Oh, and I forgot to put it right there. Yeah. I guess I can move this here. But the point is, and then so this is just, hey, give them the bass. This is like, hey, we can lift the energy a little bit and start pulling them into the break here to create a little bit more forward momentum in the track. And so with a lift sound, a sound that lifts the energy, it's like, it doesn't really matter what it is. Just something comes in that lifts the energy a little bit, right? Now, Malp is doing something very classic, which is just lifting with a hi-hat. So here we're getting that kind of really tight closed hat sound. Now there's a lot of nice texture on that hat for sure, but the bulk of that sound is a closed hat. And then we go into the B section of the bass drop, the second 8 bars. The B lift is going to be primarily an open hat. There we go. So we just get an open 909. So I'm just going to add this as a lift because we were talking about how creating a hook and lift map, we're going to map out the hooks and we'll map out how the drums also lift over time because that's basically the development of the groove. And the groove for me is defined as the drums and bass. Now there's many ways to talk about the groove, but that's how I'm specifically using it right now. The groove, drums and bass. Okay, we're also getting this interesting texture. So I'm not even going to try to figure that out because it doesn't matter. If I was going to use this track as inspiration, all I need to do is just go find some texture. Now, if I was going to do a texture like that, then I might run a piece of the vocal through like Tantra, Infiltrator, all those things, but that just sounds like some kind of weird little rhythmic texture thing. All right, like Vox, Tantra. Who knows? Who cares? There we go. We got the whistle back in a different spot. Where is that guy? This is cool. Hat opens a little bit. You hear that? Hat opens. Ooh, hat opens and then hat verbs. So hat washes out, maybe. All right, verbs, because that's what I said for the first time. Verbs. All of that is like an up effect in a way. All of that. And the reverb right here is like a grow effect. We might talk about that later. But like this is just pulling you in. Right? So one of the things you could do in the B lift right here is lift with a sound, and that's what the hat is, the hi-hat. But another thing you could do is you can add a transition sound, and a transition sound would be like a riser. So like back here, this is a riser transition. Right? That little faint little whistly riser in the background. But here, this is using the hat as a transition sound, right? Pulling you in by opening it up. Just like you open the cutoff on a bass, this is just extending the decay on the hi-hat. Okay, then we got the little double kick again. And I'm just going to get rid of the kick fill channel. I'll just put them up here. But cool, very nice, abrupt kind of transition there. Little splash hat to close it off, right? Not really, actually. It's just an open hat. I thought it was adding a splash hat, but it's not. It's just continuing the open hat right here. So I'm curious if this hat right here is the same as the splash hat back here. All right, so let's see. No, it's not. This is a wide hat. You can hear that. Wide hat's on the right. Maybe over here, though. Let's see. Nah. Different hat. But where is that happening, by the way? So okay, so it's happening on the second bar before the last clap. So does that continue through here? So it'd be right here. Yeah, right there. Okay, so we're getting a splash hat for sure. But now when this hat comes in, what happens? No splash hat. That makes sense because now we have an open hat, so we don't quite need that. But that's interesting. It's interesting because we're kind of expecting that in a way. No splash shot. All right, cool. Moving on. So here we're going to get into a high pass section with the kick and the bass. So we'll go, or the beat and the bass. So we definitely have a high pass kick. So let's see. Full kick, a full drums, I should say, too, because these are kind of like stripped back drums. Yeah, so high pass kick, LP drums, so low pass drums, so HP kick. I'm just gonna write HP and LP. There we go. High pass and low pass. All right, and then the main vocal there, so Vox, Tesla, cool. So you can hear the riser coming up in the background, so that's an up effect. So this is like a detuned saw wave, so detuned saw riser. Funny, there's random places for the little whistle. We got one here, and then I think this is where it starts interacting with the main vocal. Well, let's see. Okay, we're also getting middle white noise riser. You can hear the white noise riser coming up. You hear the bass cutoff opening, so starting low, opening here. So, oh, whoops. So bass, oh my gosh, dude. HP, bass, fill, cutoff, opening. All right, and this is the first time we're getting a little bit of a turnaround. So we'll do like a turnaround. Bam, 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 bam. Wait, that's not where the right place is, right there. Boom, boom, boom. That's cool. All right, so bass is definitely like way open. So I pass, so way open here. Okay, we got the riser continuing here. There was also a little bit of a vocal back here. So we'll do like high, a Vox, high, screechy. I think I spelled that wrong, but that's okay. Screechy, whatever. Okay, keep going. Okay, cool. You know, one thing I might even start doing here is like an insight map. And just so like at the end of the video, I can come back and just highlight things that I really liked about it. And this is one of my favorite things. And we'll get into it. But what do we got to do? We got to bring over the map. So here we have a build, break, and build. And a couple things we want to do in a break and build. First is give them a break. You give them a break by taking the low end in some way. So high pass on the groove, taking the kick away, whatever. In this case, it's just going to a high pass on the kick and the bass, or the beat and the bass. All right. Next thing is hit them with the main thing. And so we're getting hit with the main thing, the Tesla vocal, right? Another thing is keep the groove alive early on in the track. Later on in the track, you can really break things down. But yeah, even later, though, you don't want to break things down too much. You want to keep the energy going for a tech house track. But like here, you want to just keep the groove alive. Keep it going. Just high pass, you know? And so we got the kick, bass, a lot of the drums still going, just high pass and low pass, but the groove is still alive. And then when we switch over here, we are going to start building tension. And this whole thing actually kind of subtly builds tension, which is something that you're going to hear it typically in a main break and build for 16 bars. But right away, we're getting the bass opening up on the cutoff, and we're getting that long riser. We've got that wide detuned saw wave, and we've got a white noise riser coming up down the middle. Okay, yeah. And then over here, and one last thing that I want to add is, which is going to be this. Here, the vocal is a little bit atmospheric. Another thing in a break is you want a little bit of atmosphere. Let's see what's creating that. You hear that? And there's that. I'm actually gonna map that, even though it's kind of a small sound. So it's like organ? Question mark? Because whatever it is. But right here, you can hear just a little bit of a chord play. That just immediately creates a new space, a new vibe, a new atmosphere, a new world that you're stepping into, from the dryness over here to stepping back. But you can hear the kind of like delay, room, verb on here. And so it's pushed back. And that's the thing, is it's creating a nice little atmosphere. What else is creating atmosphere here? We got that thing again right here. Cool. All right. But the cool move here is the move wet to dry. All right. You can feel that. So vocals nice and atmospheric. It's wide. You got some width on there. And then it's pushed back. It might have some delay. But right through here, it goes dry. And then, of course, we've got the thematic kind of kick fill. Right, that was introduced at the end of the first 8 bars of the entire track in the high pass, but it's playing all the way through. So, and then things cut right there on the need to drive. Let's see. Except for the snare, but cool. Okay, riser cuts right there. So this is a very gentle, what I call PIPO. So PIPO is PIPO, which is pattern interrupt pay off. PIPO, pattern interrupt pay off. And the pattern that's getting interrupted here is just a very subtle building tension. And we don't have crazy snare rolls, but we're having the bass open up, and we're having a little bit of a riser here. 2 risers. And, it's still definitely building tension, but it's not like going all out yet, But that's still a building pattern. We're building. And then that pattern of building gets interrupted. That's your pattern interrupt. And it gets interrupted right here when it just stops. All that energy, that building energy from the bass and the riser just stop. Right? And then it gets cut off with the kick fill here. But the thing is that once that pattern gets interrupted, it stops abruptly. Then you get a payoff line. And here, this is where Mouthpiece switching to the dry vocal. So it's a very arresting moment, which is what you want. You want people to pay attention here. Here, they're kind of just like shuffling. And that's a term that my friend who DJs was telling me about how in the breaks he just sees everybody like shuffling, and that's his term, and I'm using that from now on. But they're just kind of shuffling here. And then, like, you know, they're kind of shuffling, looking around, like, but they're enjoying it because they're getting introduced to the main hook. But then the tension starts building, and they're like, oh, it's coming. It's coming. And then when you hit them with that pattern interrupt and then the payoff, then you have their full attention right there. You have their full attention. And so they are ready to be just locked in when you get into that drop. And all these little moves here are creating that that experience in the psychology where someone just pays attention. They're fully invested right there. They're getting ready. They're getting ready. They're getting ready. Boom! You're just pulling them in hard right there. It's like Scorpion in Mortal Kombat, like where you hit him with the freaking spear, or whatever, and say, "Get over here." That's exactly what's happening right here. And so you got that kick fill, which again hasn't happened, right? This is all high pass. Then you get hit with the full kick. That's different. That's big. That's a big moment, right? And you get hit with the dry vocal, which all this was wet vocal, right? So these are big changes happening right here. And the stopping of the building pattern is very arresting. And then you're ready. You're ready to get locked in. But that's what the whole point is right there. You can feel it. Like, no, it's not just words, right? You can literally feel it when we play it. You'll just get pulled in. Right? It's like you just get focused. That's what happens. That's the feeling. Here, it's not as focused. Here, focused. Dancing, you know? And that's the effect that all that stuff that we just broke down has on the dance floor. So, all right. Cool. And then let's go like this. So this is full groove. Full beat, I should say. Now, one little thing that happens here is when we get into the first drop here, this is what I call the hook drop, because this is hook, drop, 1, HD1. This is where we put the hooks over groove. You put the hooks over the groove. Over here, no hooks over groove, right? You have little teases like this guy, right? But other than that, it's just groove. It's just drums and bass. Here, we don't have groove anymore, right? We're keeping the groove alive a little bit, but it's high pass, right? People aren't dancing, they're shuffling. Shout out to Mo. And then over here, we're finally getting hooks over groove, right? So introducing groove by itself, introducing hooks by themselves, and then they come together right here, right? It's the HD1 equation. So this is hook drop 1, HD1. And the HD1 equation is bass drop plus, let's map it out. So we have this whole thing right here. It's going to be HD1 equation equals bass drop. Actually, maybe I'll put like a colon. Bass drop plus break 1, which this will be groove. This will be hooks, equals HD1, which is hooks over groove, right? There you go. And that's exactly what's happening here. Groove, hooks over groove, right? That's it. That's the setup. Cool. So we keep going. Now, one thing, okay, a lot of cool, this is a really good production. This is a really good production. A couple things to point out here. One, listen to the bass. The bass is pretty subdued because over here, like the bass is going to get crazier. Or, okay, that's really... Well, actually, the bass stays pretty subdued throughout the whole track, stays pretty constant. I guess we're going to get the bass stabs, but what I wanted to point out is there might be moments when the bass gets a little bit crazier, a little bit bigger as transitions, but I wanted to point out that the bass is pretty subdued here because the focus here is, yes, people are going to get dancing, but the focus that is going to capture people's attention, right, their conscious attention, is going to be the hooks, the vocals sitting on top. And so if the bass got in the way of that a little bit too much, then it would take attention away from the vocal. But you could hear the vocals without question the focus. Right. Now, a couple other things too is like you can think of a lot of times as breaks as introducing what's to come, right? And the drops are almost paying off the hook that you introduce in a break. And that's happening here in two different ways. And that's kind of basically the idea of, I was going to say the HT2 format, but not really. It's just a purpose of the bass, of the breaks, is to introduce or preview what's to come, right? And so we can see that again in two ways. Here we got that vocal that's not presented fully and dry. It's just presented a little bit wide, a little bit weaker, a little bit wetter. And then here we get hit dry. But that's the thing, is like this is now undeniably the focus. But the break previewed that vocal, then we get it here, but in a much bigger, more present, more focused way. So that's one way that the break here is previewing what's to come here in the drop. The second way is that here we're starting to get the bass turnaround. Over here, we didn't get the bass turnaround. And there's a couple reasons for it. One is just like save things, right? Keep cards in your back pocket and pull them out as the track develops to keep things interesting. But another reason why you wouldn't really put the bass turnaround here is because when a DJ is mixing in, that bass turnaround is going to kind of mess up maybe what's going on underneath, right? So if you're working it in and, oh geez, if you're working it in and then like you have a bass turnaround, that just might just sound weird as you're mixing that track in. And so keeping things flattered through here is a better idea, you could say. It's going to lead to less DJs saying no to playing your track, right? If you have a bass turnaround, more DJs are going to say no to playing the track because you just have to deal with this bass turnaround. So keeping the melody flat here. But then in the break, right, most of the time now DJs have fully switched over to this track. And so that's where you can start introducing, guess what, main hooks and the other little fancy things like the bass turnaround. And so when we get into the drop, guess what we're getting? To this first drop, we're now we're fully into this track in a DJ set, right? What are we getting? We're getting the hooks over the groove, and now we're getting the bass turnarounds, right? And both of those moves were introduced over here, previewing what's to come, right? Because this is a payoff. This is a big resolution because we got the groove over here, we got the hooks right here, but we haven't had them come together yet, but now they're coming together. Right? And so we're getting the dry vocal, focused, in your face, present, and we're getting the bass turnarounds. So very cool. Just really principled, right? And then we also have the open hat right here, and you can hear that he's using the kind of same move as before, opening things up. Okay, double kick, again, reusing that element, just teaching it, just a motif of the track. And now we're going to move into the next section here, which is going to be the bass stabs. So different sound, not the same sound, bass stabs. So let's get these guys. So if you hear that, boom, 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 ba-na-na-na, what is that? What's that technique called? Call response, right? Now, one way to make call response really interesting is looking at the contrasts that you create in the call response, all right? And so maybe we'll do like, the problem is with this insight map is like, I might get too many. So HT1 equation, this is going to be call response. We'll just do call response. Response. Cool. But again, the way that you want to think about call response is how many contrasts can you create? And so if we have you have the bass stabs, so those bass stabs are pretty wide, right? And then Let's move this guy. Wait, hold up. Those are pretty wide, right? Also, listen to the melody. It's pretty flat. It's just 1, 2, 3, bum, bum, bum. It's not moving, right? And rhythmically, it's pretty simple and slow. Bum, bum, bum. Okay? So we've got the bass sound. We've got it wide. It's flat in the melody and is rhythmically pretty simple. Okay? So let's now listen to the next sound, which is going to be the organy thing. Again, I don't care what's going on. It's like if I was going to make something like that, I'd be like, hey, let's go start with some organ presets. But if you listen to this now, okay, so let's think about this. So let's write out the 4 things, right? It's bass sound. It's wide. Let's just call it wide. It's flat in melody, and it's simple in the rhythm. And this one's pretty simple in the rhythm too. But what are the counterpoints of this sound? Well, it's not a bass sound. It's an organ sound. So right away, different sound. Is it wide? No, it's down the middle. Okay. Is it flat? No, it's moving around. Right. It's active, we should say. And then is it simple? Ba-na-na-na. Slightly more. Wait, let's see. So, let's call it like this. Instead of simple, let's call it slow, because there is a rhythmic contrast between these two sounds. So active, and then we have fast. So this is where you start to get into sophisticated call response. It's not just call response. It's thinking about how many, and I don't even want to say it that way. Like, you don't have to sit there and try to write down all these pairs of opposites to get a simple call response, right? But you can see what's happening here. It's like you can think of different ways you can contrast the call response sounds to get a little bit more interest. And again, like these are the ones off of the top of my head as we're listening right here. So we got a bass, we got an organ, we got something wide, we got something down the middle, we got something flat in the melody, we got something active in the melody, we got something slow rhythmically, we have something fast rhythmically. All right? And that's what's making up call response. And so let's just kind of map out the call response here. Okay, and now I'm going to change the color on this guy because that is a slight variation now, you know? So we just opened up the cutoff or another layer was added on there. Who knows? Who cares? We just know there's a sonic difference between these two. So now we're almost getting a nested call response. So this right here is call response, and then we would have a higher level call response, which would be call, right? And then let's duplicate response, right? So this is one call. This would be a response here because we're getting a different sound. So a little bit of a nested call response. Okay, well, let's just duplicate this across because it will probably then repeat because that's the nature of a pattern, introducing a pattern. Oh, that's cool. So now we're going back to this hey vocal over here. Oh, dang, that's cool. That's really cool because that thing is playing exactly where it ends up playing on the drop. You see that? That's what I'm saying. This is a good production. Production is getting really good and sophisticated lately. I feel like this is all really good things that they're doing in here. Like the level of the sonic quality is crazy, but the level of intention and that more music is getting in here, more musical principles, pretty cool. All right, so that goes away. So there's no pattern right there, but I'm curious to know what happens here. And then we just get the turnaround. Do you see how planned out that is? Like, that's just so good. It's so simple, but it's so good. Like, how can I communicate? Like, imagine if we just take the drums and bass, we just lump it all together, right? It's just the groove. But the thing about, and then what we're doing, what we're paying attention to is just the hooks, because that's really the only thing that the listener can hear anyway. The groove is just the thing that they dance to. right? They can't really hear things in the way that we can with an individual kick drum, hi-hat, the way we're breaking it all down. But they can't hear these melodies, and that's what they're humming along with. But notice how simple it is. So these three bass sounds are pretty much the same. And then we get this little organ response going back to the bass sound, slight change in the organ response, back to the bass sound, and then we're hitting them with a hook that they heard back here. They probably didn't hear that because maybe the DJ didn't mix in right there. Who knows? Doesn't matter. But they get hit with that vocal, and then you get slapped with the turnaround. I'm surprised. Anyway, I was going to say, I'm surprised I didn't anticipate that. But that, yeah, that's really cool because that's exactly where that turnaround starts. But you could see exactly how that just all works out. So these are working in what? 2-bar phrases, right? 73 to 75. 1 bar call, 1 bar response. 2 bars again, 1 bar call, 1 bar response. 2 bars, 1 bar call, and then here we have the vocal. But you see the bass turnaround's 2 bars. And so then here we have another 2-bar thing at the end. And so this whole little structure of 2 bars, 2 bars, 2 bars, 2 bars is holding. Just really well done. That's sick. Okay, cool. So moving on, let's keep going. Are we missing anything? Are we missing any crashes or anything? No crash. No crash. So that gets cut off right there. Ooh, and then we're getting a little bit. Okay, we got our hat. Let's move this over. And that's verbing out. We got a little bit of these kind of lasery up effects right here. Lasery. Nice. And then we get that B section melody, which is interesting because that was not teased anywhere. Cool. All right. All right. Well, let's bring over the drums, bring over the bass, and then we will get hook drop 1 here, and then we will get the melody. So let's add in the melody thing. And cool sound. Like primarily, like there's like this, it's like a sine wave, but kind of like. But there's the high texture, so probably more like a square, like. So if we look really quick, like, let me just get away from there. Just a very tubular sound, but the high texture on there is really cool. So, tubular, huh? Okay. So if you look like right here, you can see these 3 harmonics. So you can see the melody right here. So do, 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 and then the upper harmonic. But what is that? So that is C, F, G, G sharp, really? Cool. So that's just basically playing. Is this song in F? Yeah. Okay. So that's just playing F. That's playing 5, 1, 2, 3. But what I want to show you is you can see what the sound design is. But there's a really cool kind of swirly texture in the top. But right here we've got a C, and then if this guy up here is a G, that's going to be a square wave. So what is that? Yeah, there you go. G. Yeah. So just a square wave up there. Cool. All right, a little square wave there. So we got a saw wave in the bass. We got a square wave in the lead. What's the word for that in terms of sound design? Contrast. There you go. Just like before with the call response. Getting contrast in the call response, contrast in the sound. Makes it all interesting. That's pretty easy to map out. And so we'll just go to like 8th notes because it's playing 8th notes. So do 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 do, and then we're going to F, do do, G, G sharp. All right, and then he does a little turnaround on this guy as well. Whoa, is this a different note right here? Nah, same note. It's just the bass changes underneath it, so it made me feel like this one was a different note, but dude. Yes, that's the same note though. And I'll go back rather than playing it on the piano because you can't see that. But let's go to the last thing right here. So what is that? That is C sharp. So that's going to the 6. Let's see, is that right? Yep, that is right. I just played on my piano. So, let's see. So D. So that's going to go C sharp. So we'll go C sharp, and then we're going to go down to C. So D. So I'm just going to go like that. D. Okay, and then it goes down to G sharp down to G. So it lands on the 2. Cool. All right. So okay, let me be clear. I am not going to mess around with making that sound right now, but I'm going to get the shortest, closest that I can in the next 30 seconds. And so right away, there's 2 things that you could do for that. Is one, I want to get it in the right octave. So for example, we got to go 1 octave up, and that's why I have Serum loaded with the pitch plugin, just so I can move it around. Okay, so that's a saw wave. We don't want a saw wave. Let's head over to a, can I change it from here yet? Nice. Okay, let's go to a square wave. There we go. And then the last thing I'm going to do here, okay, maybe I'll do a little bit of a pluck. All right, see, I just lied. It's not here. Okay, but I'm not doing any more than beyond that. But I will do, I guess, one more. Hold on, let me just throw like a chorus or something, or like whatever. Let me just see here. Fuck. And then we'll do like a chorus. This is not even close. I'm not going anymore. Get that low pass filter. Okay, that's it. We're done. I just wanted to get that in there. So, but that's all I'm doing. Okay, a little too much voices. Okay, let's see. Where is this? Cool. So you can hear we're approximately right, but that's all we're doing. This is arrangement, not sound design. But at least I just wanted to hear if that was the right melody by getting the sound approximately close. And you can hear that's a square wave, and it's wide, so that's why I did the 2 voices. It's got a little bit of movement on it, stereo movement on it. There's some other things going on there that are really cool, but for the most part, those are kind of the power moves, you could say, for getting that sound. But okay, moving on. Let's go get the bass stabs here. So no organ, right? Hold on, you can hear this kind of nice swirly. So you can hear this vocal pad. So we'll do Vox pad down here, and I'll just keep it as music. So this kind of color down here, but you can hear that. So, and one other thing we could do for you to hear that better is let's just kind of like go like this. Turn this one off, and let's go down here, and then we'll do this. Do you hear that vocal pad right there? So oh, no, no, no. It's playing something very similar, if not identical, to the lead. Okay, I probably shouldn't do that. I should probably put a limiter at the end because that's going to sound terrible to you. So let's do that. Dude. So we got the limiter at the end there so it doesn't clip the master there, but okay, cool. So okay, I think you can hear the vocal pad. Let's turn this off and let's keep going. So we got the vocal pad sitting underneath the melody. Cool. All right, so we got the melody. We can hear the bass turn around. We can hear the hat going here. Is there anything else? Let's just make sure we're not missing some of the details. Let's see. I remember what I was going to say earlier. Hold on. Okay, yeah, that was it. So earlier I was talking about how with looking at the lifts, so how the groove lifts over time. And one of the things that we get in the drop here, which I started to mention, but then I got distracted with something, is that now we're getting a 16th note lift. So I'll just do top 16ths here. So tops, there we go. And then, and you can hear it. So top 16th is just ticka, 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 right? Ticka, ticka. Right, just a little closed hat that's going in there. So 1 E into 2 E into 3 E into 4 E into, that's how you count 16ths, but over here it's just 1 and 2 and. So 8th note feel here, 16th note feel here. 8th note, slower, 16th, faster. And so that's literally just coming in here, run 16th note grid. And then just like, whoop, there you go. So now we got our nice little 16th notes right there. And that is playing throughout. Cool. So that was something I meant to mention earlier, but did not. Okay, any risers? All right, cool. So that is drop 1. Let's go ahead and go into break 1. So this is going to be high pass. And we'll go over here. We got a break. I think this is just 8 bars. Yep. And then we get into a really creative section here. But if we play this, we have a new vocal. So let's get a new vocal in here. Let's see. Okay, I'm just going to call this like a verse because he's just kind of singing a bunch of lyrics. And there we go. That was backwards. That's okay. And then, cool. So same with the beat. HP, LP for high pass, low pass. Bass, let's just kind of duplicate this over. This is going to be HP. The turnaround is probably going to be HP. Good. Really phasey. So that's really cool. Wide and phasey, I'll just write. Wide and phasey. Very cool. Now, you can hear the bass stabs in there. So let's chuck these in, but they are going to be also high passed. So I'll just write HP on these as well. HP. All right, what else? We got that little accent crash. So let's get that guy in here. One thing that's interesting is you can hear how one of the themes in this track for Malpi is making these very abrupt transitions. So here to here, look at that. You can even see it in the waveform. We're going from full to just boom, totally containing the drums. Like, watch this. Very abrupt, right? Which is cool. It's striking. And then same with this. Cool. And the thing that kind of smooths out that abruptness is that very simple crash right there. That's what allows it to just, we're in a completely new section, you know? All right, you can hear that little riser coming up. So we'll put something here. Cool. Okay, so here we have bass stab, but you could hear the melody change. So this is flat except for this one. This melody changed a little bit. Let me see if that happened elsewhere. Let's see. So flat, flat, flat. So the bass isn't even in here. The bass stabs are just following what the bass would do. Or because here we have the turnaround. Okay, cool. And then we have like a sine wave version of the melody. So this is going to be melody main, and here we'll do melody sine, and this is, oh geez, sine, and that one's going to be wide too. So let's copy this down here, and it's going to be wide. So boom, 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 boom. So that was interesting because that's a little bit of a change. So boom, boom. So they're going not high. So right here, there's a little bit of a change in the melody. So they're going from C. So they're going bum 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 bum. So let's see. Wow. Bum bum bum. Yep, there you go. So that is a difference. I'll change the color on that guy because just so he's different, not that color, different than the other ones, and probably changes over there. And then we get the original. Interesting. Look at that. So what color is that? I like that color. So 2. So right here. You can see that, but here, listen to this. These are different, right? Boom, 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 boom. Here, right? Cool. Oh, that thing is so sick. That little drum vocal shout thing. That is so sick. But one thing I want to point out there is look at what's not being used right here. Can you tell me what's not being used? This guy. Right? Kick low edit. Right? That's not being used. So just switching it up right there. I want to know if the kick roll comes back. Doesn't look like it though. We'll see. We'll see. But so let's get that vocal shout. So we'll go like this. So we'll do Vox shout. And there we go. So yeah. There's a little bit of like a roll into it too, like brah, which is sick. All right, so this is obviously like verb and delay. So color this something else. Wow. So verb, delay, and then we got a full, and then on this edit, I'm just going to put the kick right here. All right, so this is going to be like full kick. Full kick, cool. But notice how same as before is we're getting everything to cut right there. So the beat cuts, the riser cuts, and even the last note on the synth cuts right there. Ah, and we're getting a crash roll. Hold up, hold up. So bum, 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 cuts. So watch. So right here, very gentle, right? Not too loud, but it's just enough to get that nice little crash roll. Really cool. Again, like this is really good. Nice. Very cool. Okay, so we got our main break and build right there. And then, I'm sorry, just our break right there, which is just like a little bit of a verse break going back into a drop section. So this is now going to be hook drop 2. So we'll just then do hook drop 2, HG2. Okay, let's take all this stuff here like that. Okay, any change in the bass? It sounds like there's a slightly different sound. Nope, same thing. What about over here? Let's see. Anything? There's also a clap bomb on there too, so we can do an accent here. This is just like a clap bomb. So, and a clap bomb is just a clap that gets thrown into some reverb. But the cool thing about the clap bomb is you can almost hear this kind of like rhythm or texture on it with rhythm. Like it could be, you could do something with like Shaper Box, LFO Tool, Auto Pan, but you can hear there's like a little bit of a rhythm to it. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so we have this organ right here. So I'm going to call this organ break, and we'll call this organ drop. Okay, so did this little organ break here, right, show up in this break at all? Let's see. It did not. Okay, so here. So let's get the organ drop playing over here. So you can hear there's going to be a difference. So here we have this. So low pass, right? And then what's this guy? So you can hear the low pass opening up with a resonance on there. Here now the low pass is going to be much more open. With that, you can even hear the buzz on the top from like a saw wave or something. And that's just like a layered organ. So just playing with different sounds here, like that's it. Okay, so let's map that edit right here. This is just a false, just a little bit of an edit, a little bit of a cut. So no kick and bass. I'll just basically cut here. So we'll delete the bass and then we'll do like no kick. And let me just color that a different color because that's a big move, right? So we might as well just color that something else. Cool. And then we move into the Tesla. This is what I was saying, like this is interesting. There's no real rhyme or reason to this. So this is just cool, just going into a different drop section. We got the Tesla, we need the whistle. So let's bring the whistle over. Boom. Cut. See? bass turnaround, and the hat's opening up. 16th. Do we have a 16th? Yep, we do. We're getting the double kick here, so let's put that in. Hold up. Okay, yeah. Cool. Okay, we're getting a little crash here again. Let's throw that guy. Okay, we're gonna put this whole section in the insight map, and we're just gonna write FAFO for the FAFO graph. Fuck around, find out, because there's not a lot of rhyme or reason here, just like cool things happening. And then here we're going into chords which are never going to return in the track. Just stuffing things in there like a Thanksgiving turkey, but as long as they're cool, then it's all good. So one thing I want to see, though, is like, when I say there's no rhyme or reason to this, there is a little bit. Like, I'm curious, like, you can see that the chords here are playing what the bass stabs were playing before. So if you, at least rhythmically. So if we play right here, boom, boom, boom. Same with these guys. Right, so what I'm saying is that even though these chords are kind of random in the sense that they don't play anywhere else in the track, they're still intimately connected to the track because these chords are still playing the underlying rhythm that the bass stabs were playing earlier. You know, it's just a different sound, and so that's interesting. Like, there is a takeaway there where this is almost Chris Lakey to me, like where you have one drop here and then you do kind of like a change up. And then you just have like a third drop. Like the second drop is kind of like this creative change up. And that's kind of what this reminds me of here. But like, to keep it interesting is like you're still sticking to underlying rhythms. You're still sticking to the underlying patterns that you established in the track. But in this case, you're just using a different sound to kind of play them. Yeah. So high level, that's like a Chris Lake move. But yeah, this is cool. All right, let's see what else is playing in here. See, even that, like, I just bop. He's just playing around. Moving you to the main break and build. Okay, so I just bop. So I just bop. So let's see. Cool. All right, so what else we got? Let's go from the top down. So we got the beat, got the bass, we got the hi-hat. Let's bring that guy over. We got the 16th. Let's bring that guy over. Okay, we got the chords, we got the crash. Okay, anything here? You hear a little bit of delay on there, and I think a little bit of delay creeps up on this. All right, cool. So now we're getting into the main break here. So let's see. Okay, so let's get the full beat here. Okay, so there's no main 909 hat here. So this is just kick, clap, snare, closed hat. Okay, let's bring the bass over. You can hear, obviously, there's a new vocal again. And I'm just putting these all on different ones just so you can see the amount of vocals playing through. So this is like the ride. Okay. So ride, let's ride. And then we have the sine melody from the break over here. Let's move this over. Cool. I want to see if this stays this true to the original kind of melody here. Let's see. So far, yes. And then yes again right there. Okay, cool. So let's see what else is going on. We're hitting the big things, right? We've got the beat, we got the bass, we got the vocal, we've got the sine wave. What are the little things going on? Well, here we have the effects accent. So let's pop that guy in. Boom. You can hear the kind of vocal pad. I don't know if it is in fact the vocal pad. I don't even know it's a vocal. I'm just calling it a vocal pad because it sounds like a choir to me. But is this the same thing? Let's see. Nah, see, this one's higher than this one over here. So this is just another pad. So I'm just going to put like a pad, like a generic pad down here. Cool. Let's go here. Cool. Okay, that's pretty much it. So like this is just a new vocal part. We've got that really gentle sine melody playing. And then we have a little bed or pad that creates a nice atmosphere, and bed again for the vocal. And just like a settle section where you're settling the energy to move into the stepping way down here before we build up. Because one of the things you want to do in the main break and build is you want to go lowest to highest. So lowest just means the lowest energy point in the track, where you work up to the highest energy point in the track. Whoa. Which will probably be around here. You can see this freaking kick roll. That's probably going to be a kick roll. This is a crazy like synth payoff extension, and then you go into the drop. So when I mean highest in terms of energy level, I don't necessarily mean like going all out on energy. I just mean the most engaged that the listener is going to be, where you're just the freaking dopamine in their brain is flying around, if that makes any sense, in the most dramatic way out of the whole track. And it makes sense that it's going to happen here because this is the punchline of the track, right? If you think about a track as a joke, this right here is what it's all about. This is the punchline, and all of this right here is set up for that punchline. All right. And yeah, so let's go ahead and map this out. So we've got HT2. Let's go like this. This is going to be like a little bit of a settle section. And then here, let's go into the main, where we step all the way down. Okay, so we're getting those bass stabs back. That was the first thing that I heard. Let's bring that over. And we're getting the full melody, I believe, the main melody here. The main man. Okay, high pass, low pass on the drums. So we'll do HP, LP. You can hear the basses in there. Now the bass has all of a sudden grown a little bit of width to it. So that's pretty down the middle. That's pretty down the middle. There's no bass in here, but if you listen to this bass right here, it all of a sudden is wide. So I'm just going to note that as wide. Okay. I mean, the level of detail is pretty intense. I love it. Really good. So here we have our stabs. We got this. Okay, we got the drums, the bass, stabs. Hold on, there's like this little vocally texture here. What is that from? So the ride here, it sounds like there's like a nice little throw on that. So I'm just going to kind of go like this. And a throw is just a delay or reverb throw. You can almost think of it as a send, you know, but like it's just you combine all the sends and it becomes one nice big throw. And that's what I'm talking about. So this would be like a just a little throw, little kind of thing that just extends out, smooths out the sections. There we go. Now, I think this is an octave down. So if we play over here, yeah, so this is an octave down. Let's actually move it an octave down, and we'll call it an octave down. And we'll color it a different color, so there's no way anyone's going to miss that. So there we go. Maybe colored a different purplish color. Go like that. Okay. Okay, we still have these... this pad here, is it the same one? Let's see. So we have this. Yeah, so this is the same pad. So now I love that, you know, just bringing back these elements from before. So let's take this guy here and move him over to here. That little vocal, yeah. And then that triggers the turnaround. Okay, so here we're going, does that change in this one or does this not? Now, so this one just goes up, 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 down. I don't know if I said the right amount of ups, but that's okay. Double kick. Double kick is back. Yes, got the double kick. Ooh, listen to that bass coming in. So wide, but also like I'm going to write HP. And then here we're getting like a sub in here. All right, cool. Let's color this a deeper, is there a deeper red here? This is a deep red right there. Look at that. That's telling us that sub is coming in. Let's look at that in the spectrum analyzer. Oh, yeah. All right, cool. Now, I say sub, and what I mean is that it's really just the full bass. I just don't think it's high passed. So, but I'm not 100% sure if it's the same sound. I'm not going to go back and forth, but that's not even important. The important, like whether it's the same sound in the bass, the important thing is that low end comes in here. You know, if you wanted to, you could chuck a Reese in there. You know, it'd be fine. Like, but full bass, don't know, don't care. DKDC, don't know, don't care. Lows come in. There we go. No one's gonna know what that means except for people watching the video, but here we go. Okay, we got the little Tesla vocal with the whistle. So, and you can hear that that's all affected again, right? It's not dry. Okay, and we got the square wave here. Still an octave down. We've got the pad still there. You can hear that. You can hear the drums, HPLP, but you can also hear a 16th note come in there now. Watch this. Now, I put a 16th note here. That might be a snare roll. We'll see, but that might be the top of a snare roll. You can hear a riser, a white noise riser, creeping up underneath all of this stuff. Cool. That little high screechy vocal right here underneath the bass turnaround. Is the bass turning around? No, it's not. Very cool. Okay, so before I was talking about how, you know, you want to keep things flat in the melody, especially in the intro. But even in the main break and build, when you're building tension, the flatter you keep it, the more tension you're going to get. So this bass right here is not doing the turnaround. He's going to keep it flat, 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 and that just allows you to just build so much more tension, because the more something's moving around, the more kind of interesting it is and the less tension you're building. So I'm going to take that away here, and we're going to add to this already long name. I'm going to say no turnaround, comma, flat melody. So lots of notes on that one. So here we're stepping up an octave on this guy. So we'll bring in this guy back up, this color. So octave up, I'll just write, or normal octave, but I'll just write octave up. There we go. And so that's a great way to step up and build energy. And so this is absolutely, the 16th is a snare roll. So we'll move this down here. Cool. And then just get rid of this. So it's like a high pass actually. And it gains up. Gains up. Cool. And then we'll just extend that out. Cool. All right. Oh man, so much going on in this bass. So sorry to everybody, you know, who gets this, but this one's gonna be a lot, right? So this is opens cutoff and HP up. All right, cool. Okay, so let's check out, go one at a time. So the beat. All right, we got the high pass, low pass. The bass is opening up with all that extra commentary. We've got the snare roll. Let's see. You can hear the crash roll. Now this crash roll is much more prominent than this one. Very quiet. Very quiet, right? And then this one is loud. And so since that one back here was quiet, let's also color him a more quiet, subdued orange color. Maybe like that. It's almost like a brown. But okay, there we go. So this is loud. So let's get a C3 in there. Cool, yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about by high energy, because that thing's just nuts. All right, so we got the crash roll, we got the snare roll. What else is going on in this build? We got the riser coming up. Let's see what else. The pad is still going. Okay, you can hear that the this is washing out. The vocal is washing out. Okay, I'm not hearing the whistle anymore. I think it's still there though. I heard it there. Might just be getting masked by other sounds. Okay, now we're getting a kick roll. So let's put a kick roll in there. Maybe I'll just throw it in the edit map. So let's see. Okay, so let's do kick roll. Okay, just playing eighth notes. Okay, and then we're getting the big, crazy, I'm going to actually write that out, big, crazy synth, which has, which just, you know, a saw wave, distorted, and a sub. So, let's see. And by sub, I just mean this guy down here, this monstrous spike right there. Yep. Cool. So that, again, that's just wide saw wave, couple voices, nice resonance, a lot of distortion, and there you go. Okay, so here we're getting a snare. We get a snare. Get a little bit of a riser here, effects up, right? And then this right here goes away. And then we'll just cut this here. And this is going to be an HP up for high pass up. Okay, and then it cuts. And then it cuts right there at the, like, and a lot of other parts of this track are cutting right there at the end. I just bop, 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 bop. Ooh, so that's going faster than what it was doing before. So right here, if you remember, he has that I just bop, bop, bop. Right? So he's bringing that back. However, he's playing faster. He's going, I just bop, 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 bop. So where are you? Cool. So bop, 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 bop. Man. Damn. I'm just saying damn because, again, just the level of music getting put out today is pretty unreal. Just the idea of introducing that idea here and then bringing it back over here, but faster. It's pretty sophisticated, like very intentional. So then we'll close that down. So it just stops. That's it. Nice. All right. A little bit of a vocal entry there. Okay, so let's get all the other things. So we got to get the full beat and the bass right there. Now, Mal P is... we'll figure it out when we get there, but there might be something I want to do. But okay, here we go. Notice how there's no 16ths. So he's already starting to settle. I don't know if he's going to lift with 16ths, but he's already starting to settle down to the outro there. Okay, and then here we have... Okay, so here we have the bass stabs, but they're not... So here, boom. Why is it not played from the beginning? I don't know. And then again, you have that weird texture coming back. Felt like it was missing something, so hey, let's throw in the texture. Okay, we're getting a nice little white noise accent right there that kind of cuts off when the vocal cuts off. So this is just white noise spray, very gentle. Now, since we're not getting the main hat, or are we? What the hell? And now we're getting the splash hat? Okay, hold on a second. No splash hat here. What about here? What about here? Okay, getting a splash hat here. Okay, that's cool. So the reason why I'm even creating a channel for this is because he keeps on bringing this in and out like it's a strategic element, right? It's not just something that's integrated into the groove. He's using it as a way of lifting energy. And that's why, again, I call these hook and lift maps a lot of time, because we're mapping out how the hook develops, but we're also looking at how the track just kind of lifts over time, lifts and falls. And so the splash hat is an element that's being used to lift the track. So just right there. So a little splash hat. Okay, but then it doesn't play there. Okay, but what about back here? So here we go. That's lifting right there. You see that? Except for right there again. Okay, look at that. See? I'll get like 90 to 95% of what's there. But like, you know, every once in a while, something will slip through a little sneaky. So before we were noticing how the splash hat is not there with the hi-hat, but it is over here. Okay, so not there. So let's just extend this. So duplicate and get rid of this one here. But probably right here, but probably not right here. Okay, cool. There you go. So look at how the splash hat's being used. Just a little sound, but it's being used strategically. It's being used with intention. And so let's pop it on over here. Okay, cool. So it's not being used in that one. So we'll duplicate and just get rid of this one. All right, let's play. So this guy needs to get extended. But it's not being used there. What the? Okay, so this is almost just like an extra little bump, exciting little bump after the vocal and the white noise spray. So it just allows something that just kind of kicks us all back into the groove. And you can feel that. Check it out. Watch. Just kind of pulls us back in after all those exciting things. It's almost like a period or a choke to this little statement. So okay, so turn around, big open, right? Very dramatic. Yeah, that last comment was supposed to be ironic. Okay, so here we go. Okay, interesting. So kind of doing a move that he did a little bit earlier over here, just with that little stop. So a little bit of a thematic thing, motif for the track, although not technically a motif. So let's do a high pass right here. So a high pass, low pass. So then we have a bass 2 is going to be high pass, low pass. Okay, he just got a freaking Vox glitched right here. Interesting that the vocal's used differently almost every time it comes in, except for the main Tesla line. But and then we have the sine melody underneath this guy. So right there. Okay, a little bit of a fill. So this kind of filters slowly open. So I'm not going to do a whole breakdown of that fill right there, but we'll just do like a fill. Cool. But we do have the double kick, so that's cool. Okay, here we're going to get that little accent, that little crash. So let's write crash. Cool. So that little glitchy vocal continues. The sine wave continues, sine wave melody. Let's see, let's get all of these guys over here. Okay, the hat continues. Let's take it out of here though. You know, the splash hat plays right there. You see that? So it kind of is like bringing it back there. Yeah, like the more I do these like over the years, the more just the word intention just pops up. You see that? Like, look at the placement of this hat, and then look at the placement of this hat and how it functions in bringing back the drums. Like, it's just so good. All right, a little bit of a crash again. Okay, a little bit of stabs right there. Cool. So you can hear that the hat does not verb out right there. So that's staying flat. Does the hat verb here? It sure does. You can hear that, but the hat stays flat right there. Okay, a little bit of a kick roll or a kick fill right there, just like throughout the rest of the track. Actually, it's right there. Cool. So let's just move this over here, and then we're starting to get the bass stabs again. So let's get the bass stabs from here. Move these over. Cool. A little bit of a white noise crash again right there. Yeah, and what I want her to do, you can see that this is all messed up on the grid because he did what I call a payoff extension. And a payoff extension is when you just push back the main drop landing on time a little bit. So this is pushed back about 4 bars. So what I'm going to do is here, let's just create the main break and build. So this is just the main break and build on the arrangement map. This right here is a payoff extension. So we'll color this like yellow. So, and then, now this is something Malpede does. I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure he did it like I Like It. I know he did it in a big way in Drugs from Amsterdam. For most producers, if you're going to do this, just be careful. Like it does give a DJ a reason to not play a track because so many DJs are used to triggering the next track right here on the second drop. And so if you mess with that, like it's just going to be annoying. So I would be careful about it. If you are going to do it, then just make sure you count off when the drop's going to come back, because there's 2 people you got to think about here when you're doing this. DJs, a lot of DJs find it annoying, again, because they'll trigger the next song here rather than having to wait 4 bars and trigger it there. But at the same time, like DJs will, they'll also trigger things by ear, right? So as this part is playing, as soon as that last drop comes in, they can trigger the start of the next track. So it's not the biggest thing in the world, but it can be a little bit annoying. From a listener's point of view, though, so again, thinking about DJs and listeners, from a listener's point of view, these things have the potential to completely throw them, almost like change time zones. So here the internal clock of the listener is just set up on 8-bar sections, right? This now is a 4-bar section that just literally shifts the time zone for the listener over. And so that can be a little bit weird if it's not executed properly. And here it's executed properly simply because we're getting a count back to when the drop's going to start. Because here the listener's expecting it to drop, but then they get a little bit of a fake out and they're like, oh, that's exciting. That's kind of cool. And they just need to be told when that drop is going to come back. Otherwise, they're just going to feel like an idiot. So here they feel a little bit of an idiot, but because they're looking around like, oh, okay, no. All right, it's cool. Like, things are good. This is a crazy part. Like, they're denying our expectations. How clever, And then, oh, now I know when the drop's coming back because I'm going to get the count off with a snare. There you go. And then they finally get that resolution, but that resolution was counted off. It was delayed, extended, but it was still counted off, so now they get to lock into the moment. The problem with sometimes if you don't count off when the drop's coming back, it doesn't allow the listener to lock back in, right? So you can knock him out of the moment temporarily, but then you want to lock him back in. Okay, cool. So moving on, let's see what else we were talking about. And what I wanted to do was just to kind of lock the session back into the grid. What I could do is I can come back over here. I can insert time signature just like that. And now you can see the start of the drop here is back on time with grid. You can see that little extension right there has its own little grid value, but all these big sections are nice and aligned with the grid. And for someone like me with that's a control freak with OCD, that just always makes me smile, right? Taps into my inner Monica from Friends and makes her happy. All right, cool. So let's keep going. Cool. So this is all HD2, or I'm sorry, HD3 in this case. So H hook drop 3, so HD3. And we'll just color that red. And let's see what's going on here. Splash hat. You hear that splash hat? Let's put that over here. We're getting the 16th note lift though. Let's see if that happened over here. Yeah, so the 16th note lift happened back there. So let's get the 16th from over here back into the equation, which is right there. Cool, and then the 16th plays over here. Nice, okay, and then we get that little vocal again. Does that play at the end of all the drops? No, I don't think it does. But, yeah, but that's just cool. All right, so let's move that guy over. Is that the right spot? Yeah. Oh, cool. And then the vocal shout thing. Yep. Excuse me. Let's go over here and put that in. Cool. Just like that. Awesome. A little bit of that. Guess I could just copy it from earlier like this and then pop it right over there like that. Okay, and then we're going to get the little crash thingy right here. And then we're going to get this right here. So we still have the 909. Let's bring the 909 over here. Did we get a little bit of a 909 verb? So now he's keeping the hat flat right there, just working towards the outro. So just keeping things, the energy levels down as we move out here. Okay, 16th goes away, but we still get the hat. You can hear the texture in there. Let's get the texture back. Splash hat. Double kick. So let's get that in there. So you can see how the splash hat is also triggering this fill right there, or the bass turnaround. Double kick starting the next 8 bars. This is all outro, so DJ's mixing out, not a big deal, but keeping it simple, just looking at how things are developing. Okay, and so no kicks right here. So there's like a little kick cut right there. Okay, and then a very strange moaning texture here. Not sure what that is, but, you know, to each their own. Splash hat. Kick roll. And there you go. Okay, very cool. Really cool track. Again, I'm just going to say intention, right? Like that is a really cool track for that. So HT3 equation, oh, I'm sorry, HT1 equation for this track, for this little channel. HT1 equation. Okay, so if we go back to the insight map, a lot of stuff back over here, like, what do we get? That movement from wet to dry is awesome. HT1 equation, just introducing the groove here, the hooks here, and bringing them together into the drop, right? So BD plus break 1 equals HT1, or groove plus hooks equals groove plus hooks, right? And then FAFO, this section is a little bit of a mystery. Again, a little bit of a Chris Lakey thing to do with this kind of like creative middle section before it kind of comes back. Although what Chris Lake would do is over here is he would bring you back to the first hook and the second hook introduced here that would usually come together over here. So hook 1 plus hook 2, and then hook 1 plus 2. But this is interesting because the vocal gets played differently every time. But yeah, just the really cool things here is just a level of intention, like the splash hats, the call response was a really cool thing to look at in the drop, and also just a really creative kind of development. Like it's always almost slightly different sections. So here we have this drop with the hook over the main hook over the groove. Here we have like the organs and the kind of bass stabs, I think, or at least the bass stabs here. The organs and the bass stabs are playing back here. So that was really cool with the call response as well. So kind of more like detailed takeaways in this track. We'd have to kind of go back and look at all the individual things that were mentioned, like even this little guy going into the entry over here. But high level, this is just HT3. We got intro, bass drop, break 1, hook drop 1, a little bit of a break here going into hook drop 2, main break and build going into HT3, and then just outro. So 3 kind of drops, 3 breaks, one big break over here, payoff extensions as well. So just a lot of unique little takeaways from this track. Yeah, and if you're going to do those kinds of payoff extensions, remember, just give a count off. Give a count off, if anything. Maybe even best just to deliver the drop on time. But at the same time, if you want to do something fancy or indulgent, like that we can say, then indulgent for the producer for sure. But go for it, you know. It's there's no rules. And yeah, but interestingly, a lot of just minor little little small things, takeaways, and just a super high level, just approach the track with intention. The placement of things, the pattern of things, how things are used over time, like the splash hats here, and the call response and the bass stabs. It's just really, really detailed in this one. And just it connects all together at the very, very top with just being intentional about it. All right. So that's all I got. Really, really cool track. And offer your own insights down below. Share your comments. Ask your questions. And I will see you in the next breakdown. Peace.